Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I am Per-Erik, and today we're diving into the world of dependency injection using Koin inside Kotlin. We will be looking into functions like single and factory, and by the end of this video, you will have enough understanding to get started with dependency injection in your multi-platform project. Make sure to stay to the end of the video to get a sneak peek of the next video. First, let's quickly cover what dependency injection is. Dependency injection, or DI, is a design pattern where instead of an object creating its own dependencies, it receives them from an outside external source. This improves a lot of things like code modularity, testability, and maintainability. It's also important to understand that DI is a design pattern and should not be confused with dependency inversion principle, which is a principle that helps on how to flip the direction of a dependency. While DI can help you adhere to the principle, it doesn't mean that just by using DI, you are following the principle. The principle also involves adding interfaces and deciding where to put those inside your codebase. Let's move on. Koin is a lightweight dependency injection framework written from Kotlin. It's simple, it doesn't use any proxies, and it's Kotlin native, making it the perfect fit for our Kotlin multi-platform projects. Let's see how we can get Koin up and running. To start using Koin, we need to add it to our project. We start by adding the version to the version catalog, and then the libraries as well. Remember to sync your project before we go into the build Gradle file. In the build Gradle file, we need to add the dependencies under common main. We need to add both the core and the compose. And once again, let's sync our project so we can start working with it. Now, let's start by setting up our app module. We start by creating a file called modules.kt inside the DI folder. Inside this file, we'll create our app module property, and this is where we'll define all the injections we want to do, all the classes, all the objects, and so on. You can define multiple modules, and we will look at that a little bit later in this video. The two functions I want to talk about is single and factory. Single meaning that the same instance of the dependency will be used throughout the entire lifecycle of the application. It is good to use this one when you have dependencies like a repository, network layer, or a database instance. Factory, on the other hand, will give you a new instance of the dependency every time you request it. Koin can be initialized in various ways depending on your project setup. For a basic setup, and my preferred way, is to initialize it in your app compose function. Inside the application block is where we will list all the modules that we have created. In this case, we only have created app modules so far. We also need to move the code that we already had inside the content block. Now we can get our greeting class from Koin instead of creating it ourselves. Let's say that we have an interface that we want to work with instead of a concrete class. Let's add an interface called greeter, and let's have the greeting class implemented. Now we need to update the app module file by adding the type that it should return. This has to be done to both the single and the factory. And in our app function, we now should request a greeter instead of the greeting class. If you try to run it, it will fail because there is no definition that will create a greeting class anymore. Also, let's remove the single so we don't confuse Koin for now before we run and see what we have. And we can see it runs on desktop. It also runs on iOS. And of course, it also runs on Android. Now, let's get to the next level and add some parameters to the injected classes. In the greeting class, let's move the platform to be injected instead of created. You can now see that we get an error in our app module because we don't have the required parameters. To fix this, we start by adding a platform module. Since this platform class is just an interface and each of the different source sets have their own one. Right now, they are accessed by calling the getPlatform function. To do this, we need to make an expect actual of the platform module property. We then need to add this actual implementation for each of the platforms as well. We start by adding Android and we get the Android platform. We move on to the desktop, the JVM. So we have the JVM platform. And finally, we have the iOS. So we have the iOS platform. If we run the project now, we will see that we will get an error. I kept this error in the video because it's a very common error. I see a lot of people getting it. And that is that each class will be generated and have to have a unique name. Right now, we have several classes called module.kt. So let's add the target into the name of each platform. We also need to add the newly created platform module into the coin initiation. Let's run and see how it looks. It works on desktop as expected. Let's try iOS. It works well on iOS as well. So let's try Android. And it works on Android as well. There is more to coin and dependency injection, but this is it for this video. In the next video, that will be about sharing the view model between the different target platforms. We will also look into how to use coin to instantiate the view model. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave questions and suggestions on topic you want me to cover in the comments. And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Happy coding!